Hey, it's Anese Kavanaugh, and we're going to talk about Your Presence is Your Impact. This is the podcast. This is where we come to talk about all things presence, especially as it relates to your performance, your people, and your peace. In my world, and in 30 years of working with people around their presence and in leadership development and in creating culture change and developing organizational health, no matter what the industry, no matter what level the leader, the one thing that I have found over and over and over again is that our presence is our impact. Whether we're talking about your business results, your personal relationships, your team dynamics, the amount of influence you have, your financials, your health and vitality, presence is always playing a role. And on this podcast, we're going to talk about how. I look forward to being with you here, and I am excited to get present with you right now. Thank you and welcome. Okay, this is going to be totally different. I'm going to try this version of doing like a mini little podcast. I am literally still in bed. Um, I've been thinking this morning, I've been journaling, I've been doing my own quiet work, and I've been looking at what are the ways that I can be the most helpful to people right now. And I don't think, in fact, I know it's not the ways that I used to be helpful to people when I used to do big organizational consulting and stuff, even though I still can do that. I'm feeling very, very called right now to give people the most simplest ways to create change and to find peace and presence in their nervous system. So this podcast, this episode is a test episode. Let's see how this goes. And this is what I'm thinking I'm going to do. I'm going to uh, do this. I haven't even brushed my teeth yet, you guys. I may be crazy for doing this. I don't, you know what? Actually, that's not true. I'm not. I'm just giving it to you real and raw. I'm going to do this. Then I'm going to write an article on Substack that's more personal about this and how I personally have applied this. And then I'm going to make a little guidebook and we're going to sell the little guidebook. And if you're a member on my Substack, you're going to get the guidebook for free. And if you're not, you're going to have to pay for it through my store and my business. Let's try this. So today, here's what I want to talk about today. I want to talk about how do you create accountability for yourself? How do you make change for yourself? And this is inspired by somebody who had reached out to me this last week who wanted some real support on just checking my battery. My battery is going to run low. To plug myself in a minute. They have wanted some support on um, a project that they were doing, and they had a lot of the project done, but they were getting stuck. They were having a hard time with that project. They were having a hard time seeing it over the finish line, and so they were going to hire me to help them organize the project. It was creative related, so it definitely was in my wheelhouse. And then we were going to do a cadence where, we met a couple times a week. They had access in between via Voxer, which is a thing I do for private clients that really, really helps clients get through things in the moment. And that way they don't have to schedule big, heavy sessions. We could just actually in real time do the work. And it was really beautiful. So I met with this person a couple times. This is a person who is a friend from a former life, former professional period of time. So, I gave a little bit extra in terms of just, pouring into them before we even got started on the project. And part of the reason for doing this is one, intuitively in my heart, it felt right to do. But two, I wanted to make sure that they were ready to do this project, and I wanted to test what it would be like to work with them. What I've learned in this work is that how you do one thing is how you do everything. So what I've learned after 30 years of consulting, coaching, advising, working with clients, big, small organizations, whatever shows up in the very, very beginning is going to show up throughout the engagement, most likely. And so, it's good to test that ahead of time and make sure it's going to be a good fit, make sure they're really ready to do the work, and make sure that you're the right person to do with them. So anyway, I kind of digress, but not really because it's all relevant. So what we did was we did a bunch of stuff. We talked about accountability. We talked about the why. Why was this particular project important? Why did they feel they needed accountability outside of themselves? Like why? We really talked about the why. And I'm actually not the biggest fan of the why. I actually really like the what. What's important about this? The why, what I find when you ask yourself why, is it tends to narrow the field. We tend to even go on the defense trying to justify what we're doing, versus a what, what's important about this tends to actually open up the field. It has people look a little bit more creatively. I'm gonna plug in my thing. Wow, this is really the raw podcast. This is really the non-fancy, no bells and whistles podcast. Hold on. Plugging in. Ugh, okay, here we go. Plugging it. There we go. Okay, now we're good. I wonder if I should move my seat here this way. Let's do this. No, let's not do that. Okay. So we talked about the why. We talked about what the actual project was. We talked about what actually needed to be done versus what was being made up. Okay. So there's a lot of like input before even getting into an engagement. And then what ended up happening was um I put together a plan. I put together the questions I wanted them to ask themselves before we even did our kickoff. And then I asked for information. And so I kind of mapped out a plan before we even started the plan. And it was incredible because I went to bed that night and I had the thought, Actually, I think we got the job done. I think we got it done." Before we even move into official consulting and strategy and coaching, I think we just got what needed. I think we got the energetics, the spiritual part of it that needed to be done. And sure enough, in the morning, I woke up and there was a note that said, "Oh my gosh, I actually feel really clear now, and I don't think I need to do this work with you," which is great, which is totally great. This is also, by the way, one of the reasons why I now charge for consults because what we find this happens all the time. We do the work initially, even in the exploration, and it's so valuable that sometimes they won't need to go further than that because they've got what they need. So, this is one of the reasons when people say to me, "Well, why do you charge for consults?" That's why, because I want to honor my time too. But anyway, okay, so back to this. So, here's the things to think about for if you're trying to create change and you're thinking that you need accountability or you're thinking that, you're just feeling stuck in a project. I'm going to offer you some of the things that I offered this person that help them move the needle, and they're already now off into it. They're so much further along in the project, and that's after just doing some of what I'm going to offer you here. And then what I'll do is on Substack, I will write up an article about this, and then I'll create a guide, okay? And you guys can decide if you want the guide to actually work you through. And this is experiment. I don't even know if I will do this or not. We'll see. This is a test. Right now, in this podcast, as you all know, I've given myself full permission to experiment, especially for the first 10 sessions, and we're still in the first 10 sessions. Full transparency, I've recorded way more than 10, but I haven't released way more than 10 because I need to go through, look at them, edit them, make sure they're actually of service. All right, so here's what you wanna do. If you're trying to make something happen, you have a project, you want to, um, move something forward, you're looking for accountability. First of all, I wanna offer you that the only person you need accountability with is yourself and God, your higher power, whatever your higher power is for you. If that's you call it the universe, if you call it spirit, if you call it whatever, I call it God, 100% for me. You only need accountability to you, yourself, and God. That's the first thing I want to offer you. And if you really allow yourself to be present with that, like really, you guys allow yourself to be present with that, it's going to take care of a lot of the noise that comes with things when we think about accountability and what we should and shouldn't do. So just, I want to offer that. Next thing you want to do is I want to invite you to really think about why are you doing the thing that you're doing? What is important about it? If you get clear on what's important about this and you really do the work of what's important, like no BS, what's important, and you do the work to look at what's important, you're going to find your fuel to see yourself through on that project. Okay. Now, here's the pro tip. If you are looking at what's important and you start to find all sorts of like ego stuff of why it's important. Well, it's important because I want to make sure that I'm famous, or I want to make sure I make a ton of money, or I want to make sure that people like me, or I do a good job, or I'm trying to, make my parents happy from an expectation they put on me years and years ago. Like, and I'm being a little bit tongue in cheek, but there's a lot of truth to this. If you really do the work to look at why this thing is important for you will find the energy to hold yourself accountable, because if it's truly for you and it's truly something you are supposed to be doing, you will not be able to not do it once you get clear on what's important about it, okay? I will write up more about this, I think, in a Substack article, but I will say this, when I look at my life and I look at my business, and I've been in business now for over 24 years, the things that have been so easeful, that have had the most impact and have been the most pleasurable for me, have been the things where my why and what was important about it was so, so pure. It was coming from a place of joy for me. It was coming from a place of service. It was coming from a place of honoring the gifts that I believe God gave me to bring with my life. It was from a place of really being present to the true pure intent of that work. When I look at the things that have been harder, where I may have quote unquote needed accountability, those have been things that have been more about outside shoulds, So not all of them were bad, by the way. It's not bad to have outside shoulds. It's just going to be a little bit harder. So for example, wanting to follow through on a particular plan that maybe an outside advisor had created, and maybe that plan didn't feel right for me, but they were really smart. So I thought, well, this must be right. So that intention to make this happen because somebody that I paid a lot of money to said we should do this, that actually, those are some of the most painful stories I have to tell in my business. So you want to really look at what's important. I also noticed that when I did things in the past that were for other people or other advisors that said, you need to do it this way, that was some of the most tedious work I've ever done. And it wasn't because the work was hard necessarily, but there was a piece of me I can see now looking back where it wasn't in alignment. And so I was pushing through energy that was not mine to push through. So if you get your why right and you be really honest with yourself about this, for me, in some cases, it was ego. In some cases, there was a period of time where I got really caught up in, okay, well, how fast can we scale this thing? Like, how fast? And then I started hanging out with people who were all about scaling. This is also, you guys, why you have to really pay attention to your circle. Watch your circles, man. Watch your circles. I got really into this orbit of a community that was all about scale, 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 hustle, hustle, baller, baller. Oh, like it makes me so tired just even thinking about that now. Or not tired. It makes me grateful that I'm not in that anymore. But that created the energy of urgency, that created the energy of forcing and pushing. And then I actually needed more accountability. That's when I actually needed more accountability. I remember I leaned on those advisors more because I couldn't sustain the energy myself because it wasn't mine to sustain. So you want to really look at that. So your accountability, you check in with yourself, yourself, and God. That's who you're accountable to. Period. Your integrity with yourself, your integrity with God, your integrity with your gifts. That is what is most important. So whatever it is that you're doing to act upon those with this life, that's what you're going to hold yourself accountable for. It's that simple. Oh, I have so much to say about this. This is such a longer podcast, but I'm just doing this for fun today. Short and sweet. Okay. Next thing you're going to do is you're going to make sure that it's really, truly yours. If you dig into your what's important about this or your why, I know some people really love the why. If you dig into that and you find that there's wobbly stuff in there, and you just got to be honest with yourself. This for me, it's about the money, it's about my ego, it's about looking good. Wait, you're gonna need more accountability for that. So then you're gonna need somebody to hold you accountable. It's gonna it's gonna it's gonna be harder than it needs to be. So check that. Once you get through those two things, then you want to look at, okay, well, what actually needs to be done? So if you're clear on what's important, what actually now needs to be done? And from here, it gets so much simpler. It's like, well, I need to do X, Y, and Z. Okay, great. When do I need to do these things by? Well, my intention is to have it done by this date. Great. I'm a huge fan of deadlines. Um, that are realistic, by the way, not deadlines that are silly, deadlines that are realistic. Once you've got that, you can make a map. You can make a map of what needs to be done. Then you can look at, well, what actually really does need to be done? Who needs to be involved in this? What resources do we need outside of the work? And then you can make that list. The more clear you are on your what's important about this and that you're doing this for the right reasons, the easier it is going to be to eliminate all that noise, all that external need for external accountability, and you move yourself much further. So the end of the story for this particular situation that happened was, we're now in a beautiful place. I actually wrote back to them because they said, "I think I need to think about this." And I wrote back yesterday and I said, "You know what? I actually don't think you need to think about this. I think we got what needed to be done. You came to me at the perfect time where you needed to clear a couple of hurdles to help you get clear about what was important about this to you. And by the way, this project is incredibly important to this person for the right reasons. So I'm so excited for them because now that they've clarified the what, they've clarified where it's coming from. Now we've moved all that energy out. So all they have to do now is just get it done and move forward. So with that being said, we're going to leave it here. Tell me in the comments what's something that you're working on. By the way, this could be about your health. This could be about a business project. This could be about a piece you're writing. This could be about starting a podcast. This could be about getting into a relationship. This could be anything. I really challenge people. Well, first of all, I actually did a learning lab about this in our community a while ago about accountability. Nobody really wants to be held accountable. The goal is to inspire accountability in your leadership. So that's a whole different conversation. Maybe we'll have that another time. But I want you to think about that too. In holding yourself accountable, what if you were just to be accountable? And if you apply what I've offered you here in this short episode, I bet you're going to find ways to be more accountable to yourself and to God and to what it is that you're here to create in the world. But you're going to do it from a more easeful place. So share in the comments. What is it that you're working on? Maybe there's been something you've been having a hard time making it happen. Maybe you've been thinking, oh, I need accountability, food, exercise, business, money, relationships, whatever. What is it? I promise you, we all have stuff. Okay, lots of love to you. We're going to leave it there. Thank you as always for listening to all of these episodes. Please like, share, do all the things, and I will be back soon with another episode. Thanks so much.